Everybody knows one. They're the person who's the life of the party, even when there's no party. They're the center of attention at every gathering and are the ones who never seem to be comfortable by themselves. They tell the loudest jokes, push for the biggest projects at work, and seem to be on all the time. We call them extroverts, and we gather around them like moths to a flame. Their opposite number, introverts, seem to fade into the background, watching, waiting, sometimes becoming invisible as the extrovert takes the stage. What superpowers do these low-key individuals possess? Susan Cain says plenty, and she outlines them in her book, Quiet Power: The Secret Strengths of Introverts. Introverts, she says, aren't to be pitied, far from it. They aren't friendless, retiring souls who sit apart because of some flaw in their personalities.
An introvert is somebody who gets their energy by being either alone or with a close friend or just generally in a quieter situation. So it's kind of a question of, if you think in terms of batteries, extroverts tend to recharge their batteries by being in a situation with a lot going on or a lot of people around. And introverts, no matter how socially skilled, tend after about 2 hours on to start to wish that they were home in their pajamas.
Cain says that many famous people that you might not think of as retiring and quiet are actually introverts.
Bill Gates is one, Beyonce, J.K. Rowling, who wrote Harry Potter, Dr. Seuss, Eleanor Roosevelt. There are so many.
You can also add civil rights activist Rosa Parks, singer Christina Aguilera, scientist Albert Einstein, actress Audrey Hepburn, and financial whiz Warren Buffett to that list. Cain says that introverts are often confused with shy people, but they aren't necessarily part of that group.
Shyness and introversion are different. Introversion is kind of like about how you respond to stimulation and the preference for situations that are just less overstimulating. Whereas shyness is more about the fear of social judgment and a proneness to embarrassment, feelings of self-consciousness. So in practice, you can be shy and introverted, or you could be introverted without being shy, which I suspect describes President Obama, for example. Or you could be a shy extrovert, somebody like Barbra Streisand, who by all accounts is a larger-than-life personality, but who stopped performing for decades because her stage fright was so intense.
When an introvert starts school and is thrown into a new situation and a group of children he or she doesn't know, it can be tough for them. Cain says that it's helpful if teachers recognize that an introvert isn't unfriendly, just less gregarious.
It'll probably take them a while to warm up and feel comfortable. Even once they do, and they're totally comfortable and at their ease, in general, these kids tend to prefer the company of a few close friends as opposed to really mixing it up with everybody. Not to say they won't be friendly with all the kids, but generally you're going to see a real preference for their people. And in terms of work habits, they will tend to want to work on projects autonomously.
Working in groups is a big trend in schools today, and it bothers Cain to see that some educators don't think about how a very large portion of the student body learns when they create these classroom assignments.
Because it's really not the way that half of the population, the introverted half, prefers to learn. You know, nowadays, even things like AP Calculus are being taught as group projects. And I talk to kids about this, and they tell me, yep, I flunked AP Calculus because I would get in the group and not want to say anything and not want to work out a problem in that setting, and they just weren't learning. So it's very troubling.
If an introvert does have to work on a group project, Cain has some strategies for them to make the best of the situation and succeed there and in other areas of school life.
For one thing, when you are in one of these group projects that I was just describing, it can really help to prepare in advance and to think about what kind of role you would most want to play in that group this time around. Might be the devil's advocate, who's the one who's going to say, are we doing it the right way or the wrong way? You might want to be the facilitator. You might want to be the note taker. You might want to be the artist. You know, it's going to depend on you and on that context, but to think mindfully about it. Also, to really look for the place in school where you can find your niche. So instead of accepting the received wisdom that the way to be a star in school is to be the captain of the soccer team or the president of the class, you don't have to do that. There's lots of other niches out there, and you need to find the one that works for you and go deep in that one. Acquire expertise and make friends within that niche and really follow something you're interested in doing, and that's where you're going to find yourself shining.
In a classroom situation where students are asked to answer questions, introverts often don't raise their hands very quickly. Kane has some ideas for teachers that can make question and answer time more comfortable for this group.
After you ask a question of your class, most teachers, it's natural to kind of look for the answer right away. But if you wait a few extra beats before calling on somebody to answer the question, another 5 seconds, another 10 seconds, you're going to get way more kids participating than if you only wait that 1 second. Because the introverted kids, by their nature, need to process things before they articulate them. So you want to give those kids time to process. Another technique is called think, pair, share, and this is where the teacher asks the class a question, asks the students first to think about it quietly to themselves, then to pair up with a partner to discuss it, and then to invite those pairs to share it out with a larger group. And what that does is it gives the introverts and the extroverts alike time to think, the ability to articulate their thoughts out loud, at least with one other partner. And then for the more reserved kids, having now articulated their thoughts, they're actually more likely to share them out with a group than they would have been to do it cold.
Kane says that people who are introverts can learn to become more comfortable in school if they work at it. Like most things, practice makes perfect. And she has some tips on how quieter people can speak up and contribute.
The key is, first of all, accepting that maybe this is harder for you than it is for the kid sitting next to you, and that's okay. And then thinking about what are the techniques I can use to make this easier for me. So we found that for some kids, it helps to give themselves a push to be one of the first to speak up in class, because then other people start directing their attention more to you in a positive way, and you start to feel kind of more a part of the center of things. And if you've spoken up early, you don't build up that anticipatory anxiety as you wait and wait and wait to get the courage to raise your hand. So for some, that's what really works. For others, really exactly the opposite, and they do better by waiting until other people have spoken and taking time to formulate how they want to enter into the conversation and going in that way. So the key is to accept yourself and be mindful of how you and you alone are responding and follow your own lead.
Ironically, introverts and extroverts often make the best of friends. Kane says that they complement each other and find that extroverts tend to be attracted to the depths of introverts.
I've had many extroverts tell me, when I'm with my introverted friends, that's when I really sit down and think about things, and they always ask me questions and make me think in a way that I wouldn't have done before. They get me into a quieter, deeper place that I like to be, and I can't get there myself. So there's a lot of mutual benefit to those friendships.
Kane says that introverts have a lot of very desirable traits that the average person might not see until they get to know a quieter person better. She says that they make good leaders because they tend to listen to what others have to say, solicit ideas, and then run with them. But that's not all.
Introverts tend to be really creative, and that's actually documented in any number of studies. So I really do recommend finding your creative niche if that speaks to you. Introverts tend to be really good at focusing and developing skills in general. So if you're an athlete, you're probably going to be the type of athlete where you've got the discipline and the ability to keep on practicing, keep on focusing, keep on working on the piece of your athletic technique that is just outside your grasp that you want to get better and better at. You will find that you have an incredible ability to excel above and beyond the typical person because of this incredible power of persistence.
You can find out all about introverts and how they learn, socialize, and contribute to society in Susan Cain's book, Quiet Power, available now. She also invites listeners to her website at quietrev.com for more information on learning styles, parenting, and working with introverts. For more information about all of our guests, log on to our site at viewpointsonline.net. You can find archives of past programs there and on iTunes and Stitcher. I'm Gary Price.
Medicare and their list of suppliers continue to change, so if you have diabetes, it may affect where you get your testing supplies. But rest assured that your #1 doctor-recommended one-touch testing supplies are always covered by Medicare Part B at your local pharmacy and select mail-order suppliers. Dr. Brian Levy, Chief Medical Officer at LifeScan, maker of one-touch products.
Some mail-order suppliers may offer a limited selection of diabetes testing supplies. They may try to switch you to a different brand, saying your current products are no longer covered. That's just not true. You are entitled to continue using the products you know and trust and that have been recommended by your healthcare professional at no additional cost.
Remember, you have a choice. Stay with the number one brand used by Medicare patients. For questions about coverage or where to get your one-touch testing supplies, call 1-844-942-2654 or visit www.onetouch.com/Medicare. Medicare Part B is not a guarantee of coverage and payment, which may be subject to coinsurance, deductible, and patient eligibility requirements.
The peak summer travel season means long airport security lines will only be getting longer. Waits of up to 3 hours at some airports have meant lots of missed flights. That's why experts are advising travelers to take advantage of the one way around the wait by enrolling in the TSA PreCheck program. Go through a separate, fast-moving security line at the airport without removing your shoes, laptops, liquids, belts, or light jackets. Getting pre-checked isn't difficult, according to Charles Carroll, Senior Vice President of Enrollment Services at Morphotrust USA, the firm operating the program for the TSA.
Just go to identigo.com and make an appointment at one of our approximately 400 Identigo centers. Once there, enrollment agents will verify identity through a passport or birth certificate and other government-issued ID, get some biographical information, and then live-scan fingerprints. It takes 5 minutes or less.
Enrollment costs $85, and once approved, enrollees get a KTN, known traveler number, that will help you avoid those long lines for 5 years. Find out more at identigo.com.